As of today, the United States has officially been cut out from the global market. And this is something that we do need to talk about, because while the US is completely addicted to the drama, addicted to the absurdities coming from Capitol Hill, the White House, Truth Social, the gaffes by our president, the gaffes by our politicians, we argue over nonsense, because nonsense at this point is truly all that we have. But the rest of the world has actively been restructuring the global economy to cut us out. The truth is, America first has absolutely failed, because isolationism is the death of a nation in a global world. And today, May 1st, 2026, is the day that the global order has officially flipped. See, as the global hegemon, the United States has had a responsibility to kind of act as the responsible stepfather who came into a broken home and has kind of guided the world forward into a reasonable and safe place. But that's just not how it's worked out. Now, maybe in decades past, you can argue that the United States has been a good parent for the world, or at least has risen to the expectations that the world has expected from it. But in 2025, we tried to weaponize our economy by throwing tariffs all over the world, having a temper tantrum, relapsing and going back to being the alcoholic dad that the world never really needed or wanted. And now the rest of the world is planning to have Thanksgiving without us. So today is a big deal, and like I said, we have to talk about it, because the Mercosur Europe deal has been on the table for a very long time. The negotiations have been going on for more than 20 years. But what we're seeing now is that provisional application begin today. That means that Europe, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Bolivia have essentially merged their trade blocs into a massive free trade bloc. This creates an integrated market with over 700 million people. This officially eliminates billions of euros of tariffs and gives the European Union, a cheap access to South America, to the global South when it comes to manufacturing, cars, pharmaceutical industry. And for South America, they get a massive buyer when it comes to agricultural and mineral goods in Europe. And like we said, this has been going on for 25 years, these negotiations. So why now? And like I said, that's because the world is restructuring to operate without the United States, because the United States has become such a toxic actor in the global economy. It may have a $30 trillion economy, but as of today, reports have come out that the US economy has officially been overshadowed by its debt, over 100%. And that is going to absolutely change the game when it comes to how global banks financing actually interact with the United States. Politicians from the United States may want to call NATO a paper tiger when it comes to the military potential of that defense pact. But in reality, the United States has become a financial paper tiger. On paper, it looks great, $30 trillion economy. But in reality, we carry so much debt burden that we don't have any real growth in the future. Our entire economy goes to pay off the debt at this point. We've become a schizophrenic superpower, and it's not that Europe, it's not that the global South wanted the destruction of the United States, not that it wanted to deny the United States access to their trade. It's simply that they were pushed to it. And that's why, after 25 years, this has just been pushed through. It's out of necessity, and that's what the world's been doing. It's been acting out of necessity to safeguard its own nations and middle powers from the abuses of a superpower like the United States. Because the thing is, nations within the EU, nations within Mercosur, they've really had no other choice but to be backed, or but to choose a side with a superpower. But in 2026, there's really been a movement against that. The unipolar global order is over. And the weaponization of trade policies, the weaponization of trade markets to safeguard smaller middle nations from the superpowers. Like I said, this is something that's really been building this year with Mark Carney announcing that at the World Economic Forum. You've seen a lot of momentum, I gather, especially in Barcelona a couple weeks ago, with President Luna coming from Brazil, really saying that this needs to happen and this needs to happen now, not just for financial protection of these nations, but for a kind of representation and fairness that the middle powers haven't had in the past. So instead of looking to China, looking to Russia, looking to the United States, and saying that we have to follow one of these superpowers. They decided, no, we're building a third option. And that's going to give the kind of strategic autonomy that especially the EU has been looking for with a lot of the threats that have been coming from the United States. We have to remember that all throughout South America, all throughout the global South, for my entire lifetime, the US has been operating in a way to destabilize governments. So we used to overthrow governments just to keep bananas cheap. Now we're calling countries in South America and they're not answering because they're too busy talking to the French. That's the reality, and that's only going to continue as the benefits from trade deals like these, closed-loop trade deals that exclude the United States, really have their effect on the global economy in the middle powers within these trade deals. And the EU looked at America and looked at its leadership and has essentially said that, listen, every 4 years, the pendulum swings and we just cannot keep up with it. We need stable trade actors in which we can build relationships on solid foundations, not something that changes every 4 years with the TikTok algorithm. And they're right. They're right to do so because that is exactly the point. And even the domestic economy in America can't decide what it's going to do. And that's why we've had this period of a stagnant economy where we can point to growth, but at the same time, it doesn't align with inflation. It doesn't align with wage growth. And that's why lifestyle in America, the standard of living of the average America, it is completely slipped at this point. It's until the point where Americans themselves look at our leadership and say, who are you actually representing? Because we can talk all year. Last year, we talked about the K-shaped economy. And it wasn't an alarm bell that was rung. It wasn't any kind of panic that ensued. In fact, it was celebrated. When 10% of the population of the United States paid for 90% of all consumer spending, it wasn't seen as an emergency, which it should have. So the average American in the economy that doesn't represent them is left alone. The American people are essentially their own middle power who fall under a superpower. And a point's going to come where they're going to have to question their relationship and their commitment to their own government. And maybe if some kind of alternative isn't just possible, but is necessary. And the thing is, Americans will see this at some point if it's ever on the news in the United States, and they're just going to brush it off and say, well, this is an agreement between smaller economies. It doesn't really matter. But it does matter. It matters a lot because it's all about access to trade blocks. If we have high tariffs, if we have high duties on our products that are going into another economy, another trade territory, that means that our products are going to cost a lot more than products that are coming in that don't have to pay those tariffs. So we cannot compete. So essentially, even though we have access to the market, we are locked out of that market because there's just no buyers. And this originally was a big problem when it came to the deal between the EU and Mercosur. And France really did champion that because they worried about how this was going to affect farmers and agriculture. If you have a ton of cheap goods, cheap products that are coming in from South America, it's going to be the farmer that pays the price. And that's one of the reasons this has taken so long, because they introduced safeguards that make it so the prices on certain sensitive goods like beef, it can't drop more than 8%. That way, farmers can still compete. So this has an effect where the average person is going to see a cost decrease reflected at the grocery stores, while at the same time, there's more choice and competition. But by only allowing there to be quotas that are filled from Mercosur in the EU, it means that the farmers in the EU won't be harmed. Yeah, they'll have more competition, yes. And will there be a negative effect? We kind of have to wait to see, and this is why this is a provisional application. But this is a major step, and like I said, this really is, in a way, the global order as far as the global economy and trade goes, being flipped. So to just ignore this, the average American, it's a massive mistake because, listen, anytime the economy takes a ding, anytime it takes a hit, it means that jobs are impacted. And already in a time where there's such scarcity in the job market, any kind of fluctuation to the economy has a ripple effect that's going to be felt by the working class and the working poor in the United States of America. So to just brush these off and say that, no, these are just foreign countries that doesn't impact us, you have to look at the macroeconomics and see how it runs down into the microeconomy of the household. And that's where the distraction comes in. That's where the focus on the immigrant comes in, the hatred of the immigrant, the scapegoating. There's always a deflection of where the root cause that these symptoms, these economic symptoms, are actually coming from, but it's never actually the true source. And the thing is, we all know that, but in all reality, to tackle the true source of inequity in the United States is a very difficult thing to do. Not just philosophically, but in all reality, to try to challenge power in the United States, there's so many safeguards in place that the average American truly doesn't really have any kind of recourse besides the most radical action of all. And that's not something we can talk about on here, is it? But this is the consequence of economic nationalism. It does have that isolating effect because it's seen as toxic. Our economic policies have philosophical and cultural changes that go with it. You can look at the rising of right-wing political groups all over Europe as our culture spreads with our economy. Now, if you look at the deal between the EU and Mercosur, there's positive impacts with this when it comes to standards, because the EU regulations and standards have to be applied to the goods that are coming into the EU, which means that how animals are actually treated, how livestock are treated, have to meet the EU standard. And this is actually a thing that no one really talks about in macroeconomics, but EU regulations have had a fundamental change on how animals are treated, how the supply chain really, how efficient it is all over the world, and to a great positive effect. And it's a really good thing, especially if you've traveled in South America, traveled in the global South, and you've seen a lot of the agricultural practices that go on down there. To see some kind of good, steady regulation so that they can be accepted into the global market is really an awesome thing to see. But for Americans, like I said, they want you to be worried about the immigrant. They want you to be worried about the immigrant while you ignore the fact that the global supply chain has completely bypassed your zip code. The fact is, this is a new era, and the multipolar era is over. And America finds itself completely isolated and obsolete in this global market. There's a lot of wealth in the United States that isn't held by the people, but the nation is decaying. And the rest of the world is trying to cut off the rot before it sets in their own economies. And this is one of the reasons I say you have to find a way to escape. Is it practical? No, not always. But sometimes impractical things are necessary, and we have to strive for that. Here in Amsterdam, the weather is nice, right? You don't realize that the empire in the United States is over. You don't realize that the global order has fundamentally flipped, and the United States has been cut out because people here live lives. Young people are healthy and happy. There's no massive rates of obesity here because everyone walks, because they have walkable cities. The food is highly regulated, so it doesn't poison your bodies like it does in the United States. The infrastructure here actually works, and the Netherlands isn't counting down the days until the next proxy war starts. That's the stability that is supposed to be derived from good rule and governance. Something that's sorely missing in the United States, and is one of the major reasons why the global order has flipped. The EU and Mercosur deal is done, and America has been isolated from the global economy. Food for thought as always. Take care.